Shabbat Shalom, family. Our selection today, Whom Shall I Fear?
And my salvation. The oracles of the UCI. 1 Peter chapter 4, verses 7 through 11. But the end of all things is at hand. Be you therefore sober, and watch unto prayer. And above all things have fervent love among yourselves, for love shall cover the multitude of sins. Use hospitality one to another without grudging. As every man has received the gift, even so minister the same one to another, as good stewards of the manifold grace of Elohim. If any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of Elohim. If any man minister, let him do it as of the ability which Elohim gives, that Elohim in all things may be glorified through Yahshua the Mashiach, to whom be praise and dominion forever and ever. Amen. Ephesians chapter 4, verses 29 through chapter 5 and verse 4. Let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. And grieve not the Holy Spirit of Elohim, whereby you're sealed until the day of redemption. Let all bitterness and wrath and anger and clamor and evil speaking be put away from you with all malice. And be you kind one to another, tender-hearted, forgiving one another, even as Elohim for Yahshua's sake has forgiven you. Be you therefore followers of Elohim, as their children, and walk in love, as the Mashiach also have loved us, and has given himself for us an offering and sacrifice to Elohim for a sweet-smelling savor. But fornication and all uncleanness or covetousness, let it not be once named among you as becomes saints. Neither filthiness, nor foolish talking, nor jesting, which are not convenient, but rather giving of thanks. Ecclesiastes chapter 5, verses 1 and 2. Keep your foot when you go to the house of Elohim, and be more ready to hear than to give the sacrifice of fools, for they consider not that they do evil. Be not rash with your mouth, and let not your heart be hasty to utter anything before Elohim. For Elohim is in heaven, and you upon earth, therefore let your words be few. Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I stand... Exodus chapter 23, verses 20 and 21. Behold, I send an angel before you to keep you in the way and to bring you into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. Revelations chapter 3, verses 20 through 22. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him and he with me. To him that overcomes will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I have also overcame and am sat down with my Father in his throne. He that has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says unto the churches.
All right, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Which is peace on Yahweh's holy Sabbath day. Welcome to another holy convocation that Yahweh has enjoined unto us here in Stone Mountain, Georgia. The song this morning was absolutely beautiful and fitting. Whom shall I fear? If I have my light is Yahweh and not me depending on my own light or depending on my own things that I have the power to do, then I'm putting my power and everything in Yahweh's hands. And when it comes down to that, whom shall I fear? We are told, and the scripture says things that you have to really think about. You know, that let them be as wise as serpents, but harmless as doves. You have to ask yourself a question. How are you going to get the wisdom of a serpent? He gonna bring a serpent in and let him sit right next to you. You're not going to know it's a serpent right away. You're going to take that serpent as a friend, as someone that you love, and slowly but surely over time, you're going to watch their movements, their dealings, and how they operate. This may take, and you'll find out something. There's many species of snakes. Some of them strike quick, others strike slow. You got some slow snakes. Those are snakes that it's going to take you 4 or 5 years to figure out that they're a snake. Then you got those quick snakes. They move real quick. So you know within an hour, oh, that's a snake sitting over there. So for you to be as wise as serpents, he has to allow a few serpents to come in your midst. So whereas you might be looking at those things as negativity, as I sit back and meditate, I realize that some of the things that have been brought among us, they were absolute blessings. Because what Yahweh showed you, he showed you the wisdom of a serpent. You watch how they moved. See, and a lot of this is going to come to you afterward, not during, because he needs you to finish the course. See, if you find out the snake is a snake on day 1, you're not going to learn day 10 snakeness. So he needs the snake to finish the course. Then he will cause you to meditate on, I remember when that brother or sister came up and they hugged me and they squeezed me and they said such and such. That was so they could implement this right here. Now, you have just got the wisdom of a serpent, but you're not a snake. So now, you now have double power. You have now the wisdom of the serpent. So here's the thing about it. The only way you can be harmless as a dove is if you have a dove-like heart. See, the snake will never get your power, but you can get his. He doesn't possess the right heart to use the things that he sees from being around you. But you can flip a switch and use the things that you got from the serpent. You might not think that having that betrayer amongst you was a thing of Yahweh, but it was a blessing of Yahweh to put you in the midst of a snake. So now you can be as wise as a serpent, but you still got love in your heart, so you can be harmless as a dove. You now have a switch where the serpent doesn't have a switch. He's a snake all day. He's a snake all day, all night. Now, why would Yahweh want you to have that? Because it's going to be sometimes when you're going to have to flip that switch on and you're going to have to let that inner beast out. But you have to learn how to control your switch. You got to know when to let the beast out and when to keep the beast in. That's what being wise as serpents, because you have to be able to navigate amongst these snakes. So now, once you had a snake-like person amongst you, when you find yourself in a snake pit, all you got to do is think about, now what will my snake-like friend do? Now, in every last one of those situations, you know what to do. When the situation happened, oh, I know how to do this. I remember when that snake-like friend deceived me doing this. Boom. That's your answer to deal with this next situation. Then something else comes. I remember that snake-like woman I dated. And she did this thing. This is what's going to happen right here. Now, he has now made you as wise as a serpent. But you didn't have to go and hang out where snakes were. You didn't have to go do all of those things. He will bring the snake-like entity needed for your growth. You don't have to go snake shopping, because you're not going to know what snake to get. There's so many species of snakes. You get the wrong snake. You get a snake that ain't even your learning snake. You done got the wrong snake. That was his snake. Now you got his snake. Now you learning the wrong snake-like characteristics. So to be wise as a serpent, that means you're also going to learn how to spot them quicker. And from going through things and being in charge of something, you begin to notice things quicker. And I remember me and Under Priest Kish was sitting down talking one day, and he said, I believe Yahweh is wanting us to get better at noticing wickedness. I said, there's no doubt that he wants us to get better at it. You think about it, at some point, we're going to be in the wicked championships. Okay? And you got to understand, when you make it to the wicked playoffs, they're playing at a different level. You know what I'm saying? There's regular, you know what I'm saying, regular game wickedness. And then there's playoff wickedness. You know what I'm saying? Now they playing for all the marbles. You know what I'm saying? So you got to understand. It says the adversary of the devil knows that he has but a short time. So now, that's playoff wickedness. So the wicked ways in which you were dealing with before, they are going to magnify. So you're going to have to be able to spot out the wicked aggression and form yourself a defense for the wickedness that is on the way toward you. And you ain't got all day to figure it out. Let's begin today's sermon in Yohanan. That's John chapter 13. And we're going to read verses 21 through 30. And today's sermon is entitled, Upholding the Supremacy of the House. Upholding the Supremacy of the House. See, one of my favorite commercials is the Under Armour commercial. We must protect this house. You know, y'all remember that? John 13, let's start that at verse 21.
When Yahshua had thus said, he was troubled in spirit and testified and said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, that one of you shall betray me.
So you have this betrayal going on right in the midst. Now, Yahshua, of course, you're going to have betrayers outside. But you have to be prepared to be able to deal with betrayers in your midst. Betrayers who are going to be close to you. And Yahshua says, I know there's one near me. And everybody else want to know, well, who is it so we can throw him out? Yahshua didn't tell them. So you have to understand there's some betrayers that Yahweh purposely leaves in your midst because they have a job to do in your life. You are going to be stronger because of the snake-like entity who Yahweh allows to be among you. But when their course is finished, you got to know that the snake got to go. Sometimes people fall in love with the snake. Go ahead.
You know, brother, you're talking about the different species. You know, most of the times the one that's going to strike, you see them rise up.
Uh-huh.
It's the slow-going ones that are the most deadly because those wrap around you and crush you.
Mm-hmm. Slow snake, fast snake.
Mm-hmm.
You start to notice the different snakes. You even learn that some snakes eat the poisonous snakes. So sometimes my elder used to say this thing, oh, suck, you need demons in two. I said, Elder, I don't want one demon. Why would I want two? Suck, when you got two demons, they neutralize each other. See, I don't like odd number of demons in the congregation. When I get a demon, I say, she need a friend. So I look for another demon, and when I see another demon walk in, I'm like, yes, there's another demon. So now they can keep each other busy so we can go work. See? But if I just got one little odd demon running around, they all around the congregation causing trouble until they get a little demon friend, and now they fine. So make sure you get even number of demons. So even demons. Say that with me. Even demons. There you go. All right, go ahead, brother.
You know, you always talk about the nature channel. I saw one the other day that was the weirdest. There's a snake that has like a little flap on his tail. And he actually brings the flap around and starts shaking his tail. So the other animals look at it and they're bedazzled by it. And then he'll keep moving it until he gets it right in front of their mouth. He's not moving, but his tail is in front of him and it's moving around. And then they come looking like, oh, what is that? Boom. I said, what the heck is that?
Oh, I can tell you what that is. What are you talking about? Bedazzled with the tail. That's brothers and sisters right there. You keep shaking the tail, and you so busy watching, and then you go, she got you. Well, I can show you that. I just seen that on the way here. What are you talking about? What's the problem? Hey, you were confused? You didn't see you in that? You looked at the whole nature channel. You didn't see you in that? Boy, I'm going to learn y'all something yet. I tell you. Boy, I tell you. Go ahead, bro.
Verse 22. Then the disciples looked one
Many
on
of us done got bit looking at the tail. Don't act. I got some teeth marks somewhere I can show you. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead.
Then the disciples looked one on another, doubting of whom he spake. Now there was leaning on Yahshua's bosom one of his disciples, whom Yahshua loved. Simeon Peter therefore beckoned to him that he should ask who it should be of whom he spake.
Uh-huh. You know, that's us, you know. And then here come the closest friend. You know I love you. Look, go and tell me who is the snake. Come on, I ain't gonna tell nobody. Just let me find out. I just want to show him something. Right. Y'all should know when to talk and when not to talk. No, you're gonna mess up this whole operation if I tell you who the snake is. Go ahead.
He then, lying on Yahshua's breast, says unto him, Adonai, who is it? Yahshua answered, He it is, to whom I shall give a sop when I have dipped it. And when he had dipped the sop, he gave it to Yehudas Iscariot, the son of Simeon.
Now, some of us would look at that and said, oh, that is so simple. Why is it that they could not figure that out? You know, this comes from one lie. This is in one verse. You have to wonder about something. If they're all eating, they all doing that. They all dipping in the sop. So Yahshua might as well said, He is one that walketh. We all walked here. What are you talking about? Right. Go ahead, bro.
And after the sop, Satan entered into him.
Uh-huh.
Then said Yahshua unto him, That you doeth, do it quickly.
Right. All them been taking that. But the demon didn't go into but one afterward. So what Yahshua said was correct. After I've given him the sop. So you know, everybody's sitting there like, wait a minute, you just gave that to me. I don't want, no. No, Yahshua, no. No, everybody want to. Ain't no problem. But the demon didn't go into nobody but the one he was supposed to go into. Go ahead.
Now no man at the table knew for what intent he spake this unto him.
Right. You think they wouldn't have known if he was the only one that ate? Now he done whispered it. Go take care of that business, devil. Snake, I see you in there. There go my little snake. I've been waiting for you. Look here. Go and take care of your business. You think they wouldn't have been able to figure that out? Yahweh let you figure out what he wants you to figure out and when he wants you to figure it out. And when he open your eyes, some of you beat yourself up so bad, I can't believe I was so stupid. I can't believe that. It was right before my eyes. I saw the slither, I saw the tail moving. I saw everything. I don't understand. He don't want you to understand. Go ahead.
For some of them thought, because Yehudas had the bag, that Yahshua had said unto him, Buy those things that we have need of against the feast, or that he should give something to the poor. He then, having received the sop, went immediately out, and it was night.
Right. So then you have a situation. Well, you know, what is it that we're supposed to get out of that? The same situation can happen to everybody in here, but it only damages one individual spiritually. That is the point. Do you understand when Saul was bit by a poisonous snake, they sat around and waited for him to foam at the mouth and die. When he got bit by the poisonous snake, they said, oh my God, he's a devil. And God has surely brought him here to punish him. You have to wonder, when I first got sick, how many of y'all so-called friends were saying the same thing? God done got that devil. No, he's a devil. He's a devil. Then I come back out walking. Oh my God. How he come out of here? Folk ain't changed. They do the same thing. the same thing that's supposed to render somebody else speechless and all these other people who I run into that had even some of the situations that I went through, they're not here no more. And the ones that are, they can't even tell you the difference between that door and the wall. But Yahweh makes decisions. The $1 million question is, what have you done that would behoove him to make a favorable decision toward you? That's the question. The question ain't whether or not he can do it. My Elohim can do all things. Even in all my prayers and my family's prayers, we ain't never questioned Yahweh's ability. The question was whether or not he gonna do it for you. That's the only question. Question ain't whether or not he can do it. I have no question about my Elohim's ability. I do have a question of whether or not I deserve to be the recipient of his ability. That's what my question is. Go ahead.
You know, even in the situation when Saul got bit by the serpent, right?
Mm-hmm.
You see where it says he shook him off into the fire.
Yeah.
We just want to shake people off and hope shake them off in the fire so maybe they can get purged.
Mm-hmm. I like that, brother. I need to keep a fire going for the snakes. Let's go to Matthew chapter 27. I like that. But you know, that's your instinct when something jump up on you. Your instinct is to get it up off you. You know, that's self-preservation in its finest. Mm-hmm. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to do nothing. It jump on you. You try to shake it off. But to shake off something with fangs, brother, that's pretty serious. Matthew chapter 27, and let's read verses 1 through 10.
When the morning was come, all the chief priests and elders of the people took counsel against Yahshua to put him to death.
And this is where we end up making our biggest mistake. Misery loves company. And as misery starts to gather together, you see the snakes begin to justify their snaketivity based upon how many snakes they can gather together to keep that same mindset. So as you're talking about chief priests and elders, these are people who have some type of authority in the organization. And so as other individuals would see them, they would believe that they must be in the right stance with Yahweh because they have these other individuals there agreeing with this thought process. Go ahead.
And when they had bound him, they led him away and delivered him to Pontius Pilate the governor. Then Yehudis, which had betrayed him, when he saw that he was condemned, repented himself and brought again the 30 pieces of silver to the chief priests and elders.
Right. Now, the same individual made a corrupt agreement to do these things. But now that it's over, now he's trying to give the money back. Now he realizes what he has done. What's the difference? Now the devil gone. See, when that demonic spirit is there, you believe you have power over yourself. You know that there are things going, but it's like being on the roller coaster. You know, once you get on the roller coaster, ain't no getting off in the middle. You know, your whole negotiation happens in the line. I don't know if I want to do this. And your friend like, you can do this. This ain't gonna you. I don't know if I want to do this. You can do this. I don't know. Once that thing goes, it's too late. It's too late. Too late. There's no more negotiation. Now you can scream all you want for every turn. Every time it go up in a circle, you can do all that you want. You're not getting off this thing until it's done. All right. So while that demon is riding you, you can this all you get. That's it. You know you can look and say, that demon about to have me go up in this circle. But you're going in that circle. You understand? Now after it's over and your giblets settle down and go back in the places where they was originally supposed to be, You know, you're going to walk a little funny when the demon first lets you loose, you know. And you're going to look back at, I can't believe I live. So, he just got off the roller coaster. Now he want to try to undo what happened in loop number 2. You cannot crawl back on the roller coaster and undo loop 2. Go ahead.
Verse 4, saying, I have sinned in that I have betrayed the innocent blood.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, what is that to us?
Right. Now, these are the individuals that you entered in agreement with while you were on demonic roller coaster, with Satan being at the helm. Now, they show you what they really think about you. Now, it seemed like they was real good with you when y'all was on one accord with that thought process. But once your thought process changed, you find out they ain't so close to you. Go ahead.
See you to that. And he cast down the pieces of silver in the temple and departed and went and hanged himself. And the chief priest took the silver pieces and said, it is not lawful for to put them into the treasury.
It's not lawful for us to put them into the treasury, but it's lawful for us to set up a man to die. But it ain't lawful for us to put the money in the treasury. Go ahead.
Because it is the price of blood. And they took counsel and bought with them the potter's field to bury strangers in. Wherefore that field was called the field of blood unto this day. Then was fulfilled that which was spoken by Jeremiah the prophet, saying, And they took the 30 pieces of silver, the price of him that was valued, whom they of the children of Israel did value, and gave them for the potter's field, as the Adonai appointed me.
All right. Now let's go to Luke chapter 22. There's a little part that I want to get out of here. Luke chapter 22, and we're going to read verses 1 through 6.
Now the feast of unleavened bread drew near, which is called the Passover.
And you know what our people would do whenever something happens, we push it all together. So they call the entire week the Passover. We know the Passover was one day. The rest of it was Feast of Unleavened Bread. But if you go to the regular people right on the street and ask them, have you ever heard of Passover? They'll say, yeah. Next question, have you ever heard of Feast of Unleavened Bread? They look at you like, where's that? What is that? So you understand why they began calling it the Passover. Most people don't even know that the very next day after Passover is the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and it lasts longer than Passover. But they know of the Passover. Because, people know of the story. This is how we normally remember anything. There's a story attached to Passover. There's not a significant event attached to Feast of Unleavened Bread. Go ahead.
And the chief priests and scribes sought how they might kill him, for they feared the people. Then entered Satan into Yehudas, surnamed Iscariot, being of the number of the 12.
Right. So then we know how the demon entered into him. We know when the demon entered unto him. We know that it was set for the demon to enter into him. The demon wasn't looking for somewhere to go. It knew exactly where it was going to go. So there are some snakes that are just waiting to get their venom. Go ahead.
And he went his way and communed with the chief priests and captains, how he might betray him unto them.
So this is how a snake moves. It says, be wise as serpents. You realize that the serpents get together to try to figure out how they can come against you. Well, hindsight, after you learn of all of these things that the serpents have done, you are now becoming as wise as the serpents without becoming a snake like them. Because some of their dealings, they're going to come to you later. There are more things that I know about what some snakes who have been around have done now than I ever knew while they were around. Well, now because we can then dissect how all of that was done, we are now getting the wisdom of the serpents. See, a snake moves. It's in a snake's instinct to be a snake. It's not your instinct. It's not in you to be that way. So he's got to teach you what the snake was born with. You have to ask yourself, why would Yahweh say, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated? I can see your snake-like tendencies. It was already, I mean, he didn't have to learn it. Learning was even just going to make him a better snake. It was already there. So this is how he's going to train you. But please don't fall in love with the snake. Go ahead.
And they were glad and covenanted to give him money. And he promised and sought opportunity to betray him unto them in the absence of the multitude.
So then now we have a corrupt agreement. Then we have where an opportunity is sought for the right time to betray. So you have to learn how a snake moves, to be as wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove, meaning I am not going to do the things that the snake does, but I have to be able to recognize when a snake is in my midst. But you're going to miss those first couple of snakes. You're going to miss, several snakes. Matter of fact, when Yahweh is teaching you a new species of snake, you're going to miss that species that first time. So you may have noticed 5 snakes. Those are 5 different snakes. Those 5 different species of snakes. Now he wants to teach you about another species of snake. You're going to miss that one the first time. That's how he's training you. So don't think it's just one snake that's going to teach you about all serpents. No, there are many serpents, and they operate different ways. Like my brother said, some of them will bite you and put their venom into you. Others will hug you until they squeeze your guts out. You think you being shalommed. You don't know you got a constrictor. You think, my goodness, hug seems real tight. Oh my goodness, wait a minute, it's starting to get uncomfortable. Wait a minute, too late now? It done wrapped around you 8 times. While you questioning, what is this? I'm not used to being shalom by my ankles. Wait a minute. That ain't no shalom, sweetie. That's you about to get on. That's what that is right there. You about to go, wait a minute. Did you finish that, brother?
Yes.
All right. So since we talked about this corrupt agreement, I want to go into a little bit of stuff we probably have forgotten out of our history book, and that's if they even taught us this part. This comes off of history.com, by the way. Let's go into the Compromise of 1877, because a lot of times we get to the point where we are believing that the government is going to do certain things, and then when we know that the government is not going to do what they promised us, then they call us conspiracy theorists and all these other things. So let's read about what verifiably they have done by their own words. Go ahead, bro.
The Compromise of 1877. The Compromise of 1877 was an informal agreement between Southern Democrats and allies of the Republican Rutherford Hayes to settle the result of the 1876 presidential election and mark the end of the Reconstruction era.
So when you talk about Reconstruction, this is when, so-called African Americans got their right, where they're supposed to be freed, and all of these things are supposed to be happening. So pay attention to this time. We're talking about 1876, 1877. All right, this is when these things were supposed to go down and secure the right of so-called African Americans. And I always use that term so-called because that is a term that was given to us by some other people. They also call me some other names too. Go ahead.
Immediately after the presidential election of 1876, it became clear that the outcome of the race hinged largely on disputed returns from Florida, Louisiana, and South Carolina.
Right. You still have a problem with them same states. You can throw Georgia in there now, but you still have a problem with them same. All of a sudden, well, you know what? We lost the ballots. We were looking everywhere. I said, here, ballot. I didn't know where it went. Right. Whenever your candidate won, the ballots got lost. But when their candidate won, here it is, right here, right in your face. Wait a minute. So you can find it when you win, but you can't find them when you lost? This same situation happening, and every time you find that Florida in the midst in everything. They've been in the midst of it since 1877. Every doggone election. Florida just rolled right off the beach. Oh my goodness, we just found these ballots in the water. We don't know what happened. Well, ain't that seawater? Yeah. Why ain't no salt on there? If you got them off the beach, why ain't they supposed to have something else on? That look like tap water, boss. Go ahead.
The only 3 states in the South with Reconstruction-era Republican government still in power. As a bipartisan congressional commission debated over the outcome early in commission debated over the outcome early in 1877. Allies of the Republican Party candidate Rutherford Hayes met in secret with moderate Southern Democrats in order to negotiate acceptance of Hayes' election.
All right, so here comes the secret meeting. You know, the same kind of meetings that you read about with our folks. Okay, so one group of snakes. You're just looking at a different group of snakes with a different agenda. Go ahead.
The Democrats agreed not to block Hayes' victory on the condition that Republicans withdraw all federal troops from the South, thus consolidating Democratic control over the region.
Okay, so what does that mean? The federal troops were enforcing the so-called African-American rights. Now there's an issue with their election. So now they're having a backdoor agreement. Everybody have voted. But who's going to be the president is being decided in a backdoor room. Are you paying attention? Everybody going on, did you vote? Did you vote? People put on their sticker, I have voted. Have you? And then they walk around and they just stick their little bosom in your face. Come here, boy. Look at that. I have voted. Have you? Yeah, the president being decided in this back room over here. And as far as I know, I don't think he was invited. But you stood in the line 2-3 hours to vote. But you're not in that back room, though. This president's being decided in this back room. And there are deals. There's things being handed out. So when you talk about remove the troops from the South, how do you think they got the ability to mistreat us so much? So the very ones that were promising how they were going to make sure we had this, that, and the third, when there became a problem with their election, they made an agreement to sell us out. This is their own writing. So I need for you to pay. So when anybody try to say, well, them conspiracy theories, tell them your history book is your conspiracy theories. Because that's who told on you. Your own words. So you need to recognize a snake, you have to watch how it moves. Go ahead.
As a result of the so-called Compromise of 1877 or Compromise of 1876, Florida, Louisiana, and South Carolina became Democratic once again, effectively bringing an end to the Reconstruction era.
In other words, all of these people who have done all of these things, now they just put the power back into the hands of the Southern slave masters. Now they just ask the fox to look over the chickens. And every time you look over there, that fox is coughing up another feather. I ain't seen nobody. Go ahead.
Compromise of 1877, the 1876 election By the 1870s, support was waning for the racial egalitarian policies of Reconstruction, a series of laws put in place after the Civil War to protect the rights of African Americans, especially in the South. Many Southern whites had resorted to intimidation and violence to keep blacks from voting and restore white supremacy in the region. Beginning in 1873, a series of Supreme Court decisions limited the scope of Reconstruction-era laws and federal support for the so-called Reconstruction Amendments, particularly the 14th Amendment and 15th Amendment, which gave African Americans the statutes of citizenship and the protection of the Constitution, including the all-important right to vote.
And you know what's funny is I looked and somebody had sent a email about the Dred Scott case, and they were wondering, you know, have you ever heard of this? You know, it was funny. Man, this is how we got into this building. The brothers who were teaching here was some Nubian guys, and they were basically sovereign citizens, and they were deep into the 14th Amendment, and they said, you know, you're a 14th Amendment citizen, which is why they would never say that they were African American. They would absolutely never say it because of that. But then I'm very careful as to do that because, you know, I had, you know, some folks that didn't understand, but about 0.08% of that, and then they just decided that they were going to be sovereign citizens, and they were going to do this, that, and the third. And now I got a whole lot of, you know, people that ain't got paperwork because, you know, Jake always have doing something. See, this is our problem. We want to do something, but we're not going to do it the whole damn way. You know, we're going to buy all that damn cereal and won't get no milk. You know, with this kind of stuff that we do, what you going to do with all that damn cereal? You ain't get no milk. Go ahead, bro.
What was one of the other situations we run into is the lone wolf. Remember the brother that came here that went through all that? They held him, charged him with nothing, but held him.
Yep.
For days upon days, and then just released him.
Right. So, yeah, he was able to do all of these things. But by the time you got out, you done lost everything. Job, place to stay, everything. So now you are sovereignly in your mama's basement. Congratulations. Put a flag in there. Go ahead, bro.
Compromise of 1877. Congress steps in to resolve the dispute. Congress set up an electoral commission in January 1877 consisting of 5 U.S. representatives, 5 senators, and 5 Supreme Court justices.
All right. So this is your electoral college, you know, situation here. You know, so understand this whole thing is connected to you. Go ahead.
The commission's members included 7 Democrats, 7 Republicans, and 1 independent, Justice David Davis. When Davis refused to serve, the moderate Republican Justice Joseph Bradley was chosen to replace him. During the commission's deliberations, Hayes' Republican allies met in secret with moderate Southern Democrats in hopes of convincing them not to block the official counting of votes through filibuster and effectively allow Hayes' election. In February, at a meeting held in Washington's Wormley Hotel, the Democrats agreed to accept a Hayes victory and to respect the civil and political rights of the African Americans on the condition that Republicans withdraw all federal troops from the South, thus consolidating Democratic control in the region.
Right. They promised. They promised. They promised. I swear we're going to do it. Go ahead.
Hayes would also have to agree to name a leading Southerner to his cabinet and to support federal aid for the Texas and Pacific Railroad, a planned transcontinental line via a southern route.
So, understand, all of these agreements are being made. Now, people have voted, but these agreements in the back room are what's deciding what goes forth. Go ahead.
On March 2nd, the Congressional Commission voted 8-7 along party lines to award all the disputed electoral votes to Hayes, giving him 185 votes to Tilden's 184.
See, it was too close. So when you start dealing with these things, you start to understand why they play with the district lines and why they do all of these things. This was so close that they had to come up with something else to figure out who was going to be the president. Go ahead.
Compromise of 1877. The end of Reconstruction, Hayes appointed Tennessee's David Key as Postmaster General, but never followed through on the promised land grant for the Texas and Pacific. Within 2 months, however, Hayes had ordered federal troops from their posts guarding Louisiana and South Carolina state houses, allowing Democrats to seize control in both those states.
Now, imagine all of the black people who got accustomed to this protection, and then one day they all turned around and left out. What do you think happened in the land of Israel when America and Great Britain turned around? They armed the so-called Israelis. They taught them how to kill. They gave them all the sophisticated killing weapons while taking all the weapons away from the so-called Palestinians, and then just marched out one day. It was absolute slaughter. Same thing is about to happen right here. They turned around and walked out. Go ahead.
As Florida's Supreme Court had earlier declared a Democratic victory in the 1876 gubernatorial election, Democrats had been restored to power all across the South. The Compromise of 1876 effectively ended the Reconstruction era. Southern Democrats' promises to protect the civil and political rights of black people were not kept, and the end of federal interference in Southern affairs led to widespread disenfranchisement of black voters.
Right, but do understand, this was an agreement. So the very people who we running to get protection, getting them to protect certain things, understand that they have a history of getting together and making some backdoor decisions, even while they have promised you all these things. Let it come with a problem with their union, and they're not going to choose you. Go ahead.
From the late 1870s onward, Southern legislators passed a series of laws requiring the separation of whites from persons of color on public transportation.
Okay, so now you have the push to block the 1619 Project and all of the writings from ever entering into schools. Here is the basis for all of those things. You effectively push white supremacy through legislation. See, we keep noticing the white supremacists with the gun. It's real easy to notice him. Are you noticing the white supremacist who is on your television in the commercial running for office? Because this is where the real white supremacy takes place. Go ahead.
In schools, parks, restaurants, theaters, and other locations. Known as Jim Crow laws, after a popular minstrel act developed in antebellum years, these segregationist statutes governed life in the South through the middle of the next century, ending only after the hard-won successes of the civil rights movement in the 1960s.
All right. Brothers, I'm sorry. We need to pass out some apocryphals because we need to go into Second Maccabees. We're going to go into Second Maccabees chapter 3. So, Elijah, can you go and see if they have some in my office under that bench right there? So I want you to pay attention. It says, all right, through the middle of the next century, ending only after hard-won successes of the civil rights movement in 1960s. All right, this started in 1877. All right, so 1877, 1876. All right, it didn't turn around to 1960. Do y'all realize that means those laws set us back 100 years? This was this backdoor meeting was a 100-year setback. Okay? Let me get one up here, brother. I'm gonna need him to have one. Let's pass it. There you go. This is a 100-year setback. And we're going to go to 2 Maccabees chapter 3. So our whole thing and what we need to get out of that is this whole thing of depending on someone else to protect us. And then there's these backdoor agreements that change everything. You might not know it, but Yahweh has already begun to equip you to deal with snakes by the snakes that he brought in your presence. And a snake don't know it's a snake, just like a tear doesn't know it's a tear. The tear believes that something is wrong with all the rest of y'all. The snake think all y'all tripping. The snake don't know it's a snake. It doesn't know that it was specifically brought to teach other people snake-like tendencies so that we could learn how a snake operates. They don't know that. They believe something wrong with everybody else. 2 Maccabees chapter 3, and let's start that at verse 1.
Now when the holy city was inhabited with all peace, and the laws were kept very well, because of the godliness of Onias, the high priest, and his hatred of wickedness.
Right. As a leader, there has to be a hatred of wickedness. See, when you're okay with wickedness, then, yeah, you're going to have a lot more friends, but you're going to have a lot more problems with Yahweh. And because of his hatred of wickedness, that means he pushed it out. When it was something that wasn't right, he gave people opportunity to fix it. If they didn't fix it, he showed them where the door was. Go ahead.
It came to pass that even the kings themselves did honor the place and magnify the temple with their best gifts.
Right. When you are doing things according to the way that Yahweh has orchestrated, then he makes even your enemies to be at peace with you. Go ahead.
Insomuch that Seleucus, king of Asia, of his own revenues bear all the costs belonging to the service of the sacrifices. But one Simeon of the tribe of Benjamin, who was made governor of the temple, fell out with the high priest about disorder in the city.
You see this? Now, there's a disagreement between Israelites. There's a high priest and then the governor of the temple. He was given a charge, but he now has a problem. It says about disorder in the city. Now, wait a minute. Now, back up. In verse 1, it says, Onias hated wickedness. What did they fall out about? Okay, so the governor of the temple liked something that Onias hated. They have now fallen out. These are two Israelites in the same place. One is in charge, the other one is under him, but the one who's under him likes some wickedness that the one above him does not like, and now they have fallen out. Let me show you your people. Go ahead.
And when he could not overcome Onias, he got him to Apollonius.
When he could not overcome the ruler, that means he tried. So he tried divisive measures to pull people away from the leader to be in his little clique or group. When it did not work, learn your snake-like things, all right? He put some snakes in the midst for you to be as wise as a serpent, but harmless as a dove. So you watch how the snakes move. Okay, so watch this snake. Go ahead.
He got him to Apollonius, the son of Thraces, who then was governor of Celesyria and Phoenicia, and told him that the treasury in Jerusalem was full of infinite sums of money.
Stop. Because he had a disagreement with the high priest, he went and told the heathens You know, they got all kind of money over there. You need to watch how a serpent moves. A serpent looks extremely calm until it strikes. This is how it sneaks up on its prey. It camouflages itself among its surroundings. Well, if you're the surrounding, that means it has to pretend to be like you until it strikes. Go ahead.
So that the multitude of their riches, which did not pertain to the account of the sacrifices, was innumerable, and that it was possible to bring it all into the king's hand.
So he has now went and became Hebrew snitch to the heathen so that they would go and take all the money. Now, he had a problem with one thing. But you see how his anger is now going to affect all these people. He had a falling out with one man. Go ahead.
Now when Apollonius came to the king, and had showed him of the money whereof he was told, the king chose out Heliodorus, his treasurer, and sent him with a commandment to bring him the foresaid money. So forthwith Heliodorus took his journey under a color of visiting the cities of Cilicia and Phoenicia.
Oh, now, if you don't know what that means, under the color, there are certain things that we also learn from them sovereign dudes about the color of law. It is like the pretense of doing something. So under the color of visiting the cities, he's really not visiting. He says he's coming for a visit. This is not what he's really coming for. So he has a snake-like way of displaying what his real intentions are. You have to be able to notice the snake-like movements. Don't beat yourself up if you don't notice them right away. But after Yahweh has allowed some snakes to be among you, you must learn. This is why a snake has to keep moving. You got to think, people who are going to be what they're going to be, it doesn't mean that they're perfect. They are working on themselves. They can stay in one congregation 20 years, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. But the snakes have to keep moving. Why? A snake can only stay hidden until it strikes. Once the snake strikes, everybody in the vicinity knows that's a snake. The snake can no longer stay there. The snake has to go somewhere else, blend in with the surroundings, pretend to be just like everybody else until it strikes at whatever prey it has its eyes on. Then it has to leave that congregation and it has to go to another one. And there's some that you look and there's a long list of ex-congregations. Why is that? Once they reveal themselves, they have to move. Nobody else is going to sit there. That snake will no longer take anybody else by surprise in that setting. It has to go and find more unsuspecting prey. You have now been educated on the movement of a snake. It cannot sneak up on you again. Not that kind of snake. Go ahead.
But indeed to fulfill the king's purpose. Verse 9. And when he was come to Jerusalem, and had been courteously received of the high priest of the city, he told him what intelligence was given of the money.
Now, you see that? And when he was come to Jerusalem and had been courteously received of the high priest of the city, now he let him know his real intention. Go ahead.
And declared wherefore he came, and asked if these things were so indeed. Then the high priest told him that there was such money laid up for the relief of widows and fatherless children.
No, the heathens say, oh, no, we just widows and fatherless children. Well, hey, they need to go find their daddy. Look here, it's not gonna happen. Then we need all that. Go ahead.
And that some of it belonged to Hyrcanus, son of Tobias, a man of great dignity, and not as that wicked Simeon had misinformed. And some were of
Now, understand, the wicked used to be a governor in the same place. You understand? But once something didn't go his way, he has now brought forth basically, he got a sneaky plot to go and tell the secrets of the leader so that he can make something appear a certain way. Pay attention. Everything that you're going to encounter is in this book. I promise you. There's somebody before you who they already did it to. You just got to know how to read in between the lines. That's it. It's there. That's how the wicked are actually fulfilling prophecy, and they don't even know that they're fulfilling prophecy. Go ahead.
The sum whereof in all was 400 talents of silver and 200 of gold, and that it was altogether impossible that such wrongs should be done unto them that had committed it to the holiness of the place and to the majesty and inviolable sanctity of the temple, honored over all the world.
In other words, there are people who would leave their money at the temple because ain't nobody gonna rob the temple. This is the safest bank in town. Until the Gentiles find out where it was.
No, it was safe until we found out that's where it's at. They hold the money in the church.
God. Let's go get it. Go ahead, right?
But Heliodorus, because of the king's commandment given him, said that in any wise it must be brought into the king's treasury.
That's a real good speech you made about the holiness and the people. Oh my God, it was moved me. Oh, I was so moved. But make sure you put it in that bag. Put it in that bag. I'm so moved. But as soon as you sit in that bag, I'm going to move up out of here. Thank you.
Go ahead.
So at the day which he appointed, he entered in to order this matter. Wherefore there was no small agony throughout the whole city. But the priests, prostrating themselves before the altar in their priest's vestments, called unto heaven upon him that made a law concerning things given to be kept, that they should safely be preserved for such as had committed them to be kept. Then whoso had looked the high priest in the face, it would have wounded his heart.
Right, because these people have left their stuff in the safest place in town. Do you understand that? That this was not just a place. The temple was a bank. Leave your stuff at the church. So now the high priest, he's so hurt because he's like, this stuff has been put into our trust. You're not just taking our stuff. This is not church money. These are the things that other people have brought for us to keep, for us to hold. Go ahead.
For his countenance and the changing of his color declared the inward agony of his mind. For the man was so compassed with fear and horror of the body that it was manifest to them that looked upon him what sorrow he had now in his heart. Others ran flocking out of their houses to the general supplication, because the place was like to come into contempt. And the women, girt with sackcloth under their breasts, abounded in the streets, and the virgins that were kept in ran, some to the gates, and some to the walls, and others looked out of the windows. And all, holding their hands toward heaven, made supplication. Then it would have pitied a man to see the falling down of the multitude of all sorts, and the fear of the high priest being in such an agony. They then called upon the Almighty Adonai to keep the things committed of trust safe and sure for those that had committed them.
Now, don't forget that this is all because one individual had a disagreement with the high priest, and he sought about to do this because of their disagreement. Go ahead.
Nevertheless, Heliodorus executed that which was decreed.
Right. He ain't going to go back without that money. He was sent there to get the money. You can talk to him all you want. It's like when people get, they get pulled over. Y'all get the speeding in them little small towns. It's a stoplight town. You know what I'm saying? Like you went so fast through the stoplight, you already out of the town by the time they caught up with you. All right. And then they pull you over, and then you got all this song and dance.
You want to tell them, well, look, I got children. I got something. What had happened was,
You can go ahead and give your best story. Let me tell you something. That little stoplight town is paying their bills through the people who come through that stoplight. You understand? So you can go ahead and give them all that story you want. They're going to get that money. Your best opportunity with them people is to say, look, I would like not to get my license, points on it. If I pay this, is there any way that you can keep this from going on my license? You get a better chance. I done had them straight say, is that what you want, son? I said, yes, sir. They, well, come on, you got your money? I said, yes, sir, I got, well, put it down then. All right, you got all that money. Take that down, knock it down to 5 miles over. Okay, so that doesn't go on this license. Thank you for visiting Jackson County. Time me get on my car and going back on. I know them folk wasn't finna let me out that money. Folk getting there just a talking. Man, y'all wasting y'all time. Excuse me, can I go above them? Because I'm not trying to wait, because this right here taking too long. Look, I drove all the way down here with this money and a story. Now, I got the money and the story. He just has the story. Can I go before him? Because I know how this game go. You understand? I know how this game go. I came with the money and the story. So can I get in front of him, please? Because I got somewhere else to be. I got enough 3 hours to drive to get back to the house. It took me 3 hours to get here. I got 3 hours back. So come on, let's snap. Go ahead, brother.
Verse 24. Now as he was there present himself with his guard about the treasury, the adney of spirits and the prince of all power caused a great apparition, so that all that presumed to come in with him were astonished at the power of Elohim, and fainted, and were sore afraid. For there appeared unto them an horse with a terrible rider upon him.
Right, the same thing that's going to get these folks, when Yahshua come back. A rider on a horse. They got all their fine weaponry. They have nuclear weapons. They have all of this. And it's a brother on a horse that's finna tear their tail up. Go ahead.
And adorned with a very fair covering. And he ran fiercely, and smote Helidorius with his forefeet. And it seemed that he that sat upon the horse had complete harness of gold.
Mm-hmm. Y'all looking for money? Y'all looking for money? You say you come and get gold? The dude on that horse, everything on him is gold.
Take his. Let me see you take it. Come on, Cletus. Go on, take it. That's what you like, right? Go ahead.
Moreover, 2 other young men appeared before him, notable in strength, excellent in beauty, and comely in apparel, who stood by him on either side, and scourged him continually, and gave him many sore stripes.
Mm-hmm.
And Helidorius fell suddenly onto the ground, and was compassed with great darkness. But they that were with him took him up, and put him into a litter. Thus him that lately came with a great train, and with all his guard into the said treasury, they carried out, being unable to help himself with his weapons. And manifestly they acknowledged the power of Elohim. For he by the hand of Elohim was cast down, and lay speechless, without all hope of life.
Uh-huh.
But they praised the Adonai, that had miraculously honored his own place, for the temple, which a little afore was full of fear and trouble, when the Almighty Adonai appeared, was filled with joy and gladness. Then straightways certain of Helidorius' friends prayed Onias that he would call upon the Most High to grant him his life, who lay ready to give up the ghost.
Right. Now look at that. Certain of Helidorius' friends prayed Onias, the very man who they finna rob. Now they praying to him. All right? And this is the very thing that you have from the snakes and those who come with the snakes. Once they get bit and taste of their own venom, now they want your blessing. But pay attention. Go ahead.
So the high priest, suspecting lest the king should misconceive that some treachery had been done to Helidorius by the Yehudis, offered a sacrifice for the health of the man.
Right. Now, did he do it? Yes. But he did it for a different reason. so that my people will not suffer this, I pray that Yahweh would let these people get back up, because the king is going to send a bunch of soldiers here thinking that we did this. Go ahead.
Now, as the high priest was making an atonement, the same young men in the same clothing appeared and stood beside Helidorius, saying, Give Onias the high priest great thanks, insomuch as for his sake the Adonai has granted you life. And seeing that you have been scourged from heaven, declare unto all men the mighty power of Elohim.
Right, now, so now he done put a charge on him. See, this your job now. Since he has asked for your life, that's the only reason you living. Go ahead.
And when they had spoken these words, they appeared no more. So Helidorius, after he had offered sacrifice unto the Adonai, and made great vows unto him that had saved his life, and saluted Onias, returned with his host to the king.
Now he got to go back. Go ahead.
Then testified he to all men the works of the great Elohim, which he had seen with his eyes. And when the king asked Helidorius, who might be a fit man to be sent yet once again to Jerusalem, he said,
Listen to his answer.
If you have any enemy or traitor, send him thither, and you shall receive him well scourged.
Right. Anybody you send now, you gonna send him to go get their money?
Make sure it's somebody you hate. Make sure you hate him. I mean, you hate him down to the bones. Because he gonna get punished you in there.
Go ahead.
If he escape with his life. For in that place, no doubt, there is an especial power of Elohim. For he that dwelleth in heaven has his eye on that place and defends it. And he beats and destroys them that come to hurt it. And the things concerning Helidorius and the keeping of the treasury fell out on this sort.
Right. But you have all of that because a deceiver in the temple had a disagreement, apparently, it said, about some disruption that happened in the city. He was probably throwing a party in the city, and the high priest didn't approve of it. Remember, he hated wickedness. Let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 24. So at the mere disagreement of two individuals, now Yahweh has to send men to come and protect his place. What do you think is going to fare for the individual who brought all of that on? I don't think people consider any of that when we do what we do. 2 Chronicles chapter 24, and let's read verses 1 through 15.
Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Zebiah of Beersheba. And Joash did that which was right in the sight of Yahweh all the days of Jehoiada the priest. And Jehoiada took for him 2 wives, and he begat sons and daughters. And it came to pass after this that Joash was minded to repair the house of Yahweh. And he gathered together the priests and the Levites, and said to them, Go out unto the cities of Yehuda, and gather of all Israel money to repair the house of your Elohim from year to year, and see that you hasten the matter. Howbeit the Levites hastened it not. And the king called for Jehoiada the chief, and said unto him, Why have you not required of the Levites to bring in out of Yehuda and out of Jerusalem the collection, according to the commandment of Moshe the servant of Yahweh, and of the congregation of Israel, for the tabernacle of witness? For the sons of Athaliah, that wicked woman, had broken up the house of Elohim, and also all the dedicated things of the house of Yahweh did they bestow upon Baalim.
Right. So then they took dedicated things from the house to use it for whatever purpose they wanted to use it for. Go ahead.
And at the king's commandment they made a chest, and set it without at the gate of the house of Yahweh. And they made a proclamation throughout Yehuda and Jerusalem to bring into Yahweh the collection that Moshe the servant of Elohim laid upon Israel in the wilderness. And all the princes and all the people rejoiced, and brought in and cast into the chest until they had made an end. Now it came to pass that at what time the chest was brought onto the king's office by the hand of the Levites, and when they saw that there was much money, the king's scribe and the high priest's officer came and emptied the chest and took it and carried it to his place again. Thus they did day by day and gathered money in abundance. And the king and Jehoiada gave it to such as did the work of the service of the house of Yahweh, and hired masons and carpenters to repair the house of Yahweh, and also such as wrought iron and brass to mend the house of Yahweh. So the workmen wrought, and the work was perfected by them, and they set the house of Elohim in his state, and strengthened it. And when they had finished it, they brought the rest of the money before the king and Jehoiada, whereof were made vessels for the house of Yahweh, even vessels to minister, and to offer withal, and spoons, and vessels of gold and silver. And they offered burnt offerings in the house of Yahweh continually all the days of Jehoiada.
All the days of Jehoiada. This is something that seems to be common with the children of Israel, that righteousness goes along as long as there's an individual who will stand and fight against all forms of wickedness. Once that individual goes, Israel falls into decay. Somebody has to be the guy at the top who everybody hates. And why do they hate him? Because he hates wickedness. So when they get ready to do something that ain't right, he gonna jump up in their face. This is the only thing that keeps Israel right. There has to be one hated among us, or else we don't do nothing. Go ahead.
But Jehoiada waxed old and was full of days when he died. 130 years old was he when he died.
Right. And as soon as he passed, here comes Israel right back into mess. Let's go to Nehemiah chapter 4. So then you see there's a whole aspect of preserving the supremacy of the house. You know, that there are the offerings that must be taken up and dealt with accordingly. Then there is the protection of certain things. Let's begin Nehemiah chapter 4. We're going to read verses 1 through 23.
But it came to pass that when Sanballat heard that we built the wall, he was much angry and took great indignation and mocked the Yehudis.
Right. So the first step as you are setting up Yahweh's house, there's the mocking. I remember when after my elder died, and I was denied from doing any of the works that I was given the charge to do. It was a mocking.
Well, won't you go and set up your own website? Just make sure you don't put our church name on it.
Then I set it up and they said, treason! Then I realized they were mocking me when they told me to go do it because they didn't think that I could. But here's the thing. I couldn't because I didn't know how to work on websites. But Yahweh had brought a snake right at that time. And the snake knew how to build a website. You see how he do? Won't he do it? Yes, he will. Go ahead, bro.
And he spake before his brethren and the army of Samaria and said, what do these feeble Yehudis? Will they fortify themselves? Will they sacrifice? Will they make an end in a day? Will they revive the stones out of the heaps of the rubbish which are burnt?
Right. So the snake-like entity has to try to get into your head and give you low self-esteem about what you're trying to do for your Elohim. So he has to try and get in your mind. This is how you fight without swinging a punch. They're fighting your mind at this point to see if they can get you to just stop doing what you do. Go ahead.
Now Tobiah the Ammonite was by him, and he said, even that which they build, if a fox go up, he shall even break down their stone wall. Hear, O our Elohim, for we are despised, and turn their reproach upon their own head, and give them for a prey in the land of captivity. And cover not their lawlessness, and let not their sin be blotted out from before you.
Right. I hope you're learning what to say about your snakes. Pay attention. You have an example of what to say. Okay? All of this was said to them, verses 1, 2, 3. Verse 4 begins Nehemiah's answer by prayer. Okay? Go ahead.
For they have provoked you to anger before the builders. So built we the wall, and all the wall was joined together unto the half thereof, for the people had a mind to work. But it came to pass that when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabians and the Ammonites and the Ashdodites heard that the walls of Jerusalem were made up and that the breaches began to be stopped, then they were very angry.
Right. As they are beginning these things, now they first tried the mind trick. It didn't work. Now, as they realized that the mind trick didn't work, you know, you have to think about it. There were certain situations that we were encountering where people just wanted to get out of departments. What was happening? They were being attacked in their mind. Now, when the mind war didn't work, now they've gathered other entities together. Go ahead.
And conspired all of them together to come and to fight against Jerusalem and to hinder it.
Now they have made an agreement. Look, we got a plan. What we gonna do? All right. Look, let's get together and we're gonna talk about this plan. I got a plan. Go ahead.
Nevertheless, we made our prayer unto our Elohim and set a watch against them day and night because of them.
All right. So now you find that Israel is now making an alteration to the things that they're doing because these snakes have gathered together. Now there's a different species of snakes. They're different ones. There's not just one snake. These snakes have now gotten together. So now they said, okay, nevertheless, we made our prayer unto our Elohim. Now some people just stop right there. This is the next step. And set a watch against them day and night. They didn't just pray. Mm-hmm. I need for you to pay attention to step number 2. Go ahead.
Was that faith without works?
There you go.
We see faith and works.
Okay? You need to pay attention to the next step. There's a point that you're just not going to be getting hit in the head. And,
Yahweh, please. Yahweh, please.
Go ahead.
And Yehuda said, the strength of the bearers of burdens is decayed, and there is much rubbish, so that we are not able to build the wall. And our adversaries said, they shall not know, neither see, till we come in the midst among them, and slay them, and cause the work to cease. And it came to pass, that when the Yehudis which dwelt by them came, they said unto us 10 times, from all places whence you shall return unto us, they will be upon you. Therefore set I in the lower places behind the wall, and on the higher places I even set the people after their families with their swords, their spears, and their bows.
So now the weaponry shows up. There's no longer the situation of just praying that Yahweh will protect us. God bless the child that has his own. I got my own with a couple clips. Go ahead.
And I looked and rose up and said unto the nobles and to the rulers and to the rest of the people, be not you afraid of them. Remember the Adonai, which is great and terrible, and fight for your brethren, your sons and your daughters, your wives and your houses. And it came to pass, when our enemies heard that it was known unto us, and Elohim had brought their counsel to naught, that we returned all of us to the wall, every one unto his work. And it came to pass, from that time forth, that the half of my servants wrought in the work, and the other half of them held both the spears, the shields, and the bows, and the habergeons. And the rulers were behind all the house of Yehuda. They which built on the wall, and they that bear burdens, with those that laid it, every one with one of his hands wrought in the work, and with the other hand held a weapon.
So we talking about a hammer and a pistol. Bing! 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 Ain't got time to be trying to pull nothing out. It's already out. Go ahead.
For the builders, every one had his sword girded by his side, and so built. And he that sounded the trumpet was by me.
Now think about the brothers, why they got several things. You got some of them that, hey, they bearing burdens. That means they got to use both of their hands. Cat with a wheelbarrow can't defend himself. So that means there's some just walking there, ready. Go ahead.
And I said unto the nobles, and to the rulers, and to the rest of the people, the work is great and large, and we are separated upon the wall, one far from another. In what place therefore you hear the sound of the trumpet, resort you thither unto us. Our Elohim shall fight for us. So we labored in the work, and half of them held the spears from the rising of the morning till the stars appeared.
Right, that's their purpose in the building. They say, I want to help build. You all gonna help. Hold that sword and stand right there. What you want me to do? You doing it. Well, I know how to use a hammer. No, but I heard you know how to use a sword too. Well, there it is. You're doing the best job that you can do right there. That's your job. I got somebody to do the hammering. Don't worry about that. I just need you to be like a hammer when they come up that hill. Go ahead.
Likewise, at the same time said I unto the people, let everyone with his servant lodge within Jerusalem, that in the night they may be a guard to us and labor on the day. So neither I, nor my brethren, nor my servants, nor the men of the guard which followed me, none of us put off our clothes, saving that everyone put them off for washing.
Right. You ain't got no time to be getting dressed when the enemy comes. Brother, the enemy came. Well, I was trying to put on my underdrawers. I don't got time for that. No. See, when these clothes come on, they being washed. We gonna sleep in these clothes. I hear a noise. We going to war. But you understand all these changes that have to be made to protect the building of the house. So now let's go on another level. Let's go to this next graphic. And brother, I want you to start reading here about some of these things that our houses of worship have had here in the daughter of Babylon.
Dylan Roof. In 2017, Roof became the first person in the U.S. sentenced to death for a federal hate crime. Authorities have said Roof opened fire during the closing prayer of a Bible study at the church.
At the closing prayer. So he sat there the entire time in order to gain their trust. You need to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. So to be as wise as a serpent, you have to notice the movement of a serpent. He sat there. And at closing prayer, guess what? Most of their eyes are closed. Go ahead.
Raining down dozens of bullets on those assembled. He was 21 at the time.
21 years old. I need you to consider something. Most of the people that they're shooting are senior citizens. They're not going to the hood and going against the young thugs. Shoot them. They like to shoot. See, now, you have to look at the situation that we are in. We have two problems. We got the problem of the white supremacists and the thugs. Because we're not with either one of them. But you notice that the supremacists don't go to where the thugs at. They're shooting old men and old women. These people 60, 70 years old getting shot. It ain't like it's a battle of the gun hungry. All right, y'all like to shoot. Well, they like to shoot. Y'all go over there. They're not going over there. Go ahead.
Dylan Roof murdered African Americans at their church during their Bible study and worship. They had welcomed him.
They welcomed him. Go ahead.
He slaughtered them. He did so with the express intent of terrorizing not just his immediate victims at the historical important Mother Emanuel Church, but as many similar people as would hear of the mass murder. The panel wrote in his ruling, no cold record or careful parsing of statutes and precedents can capture the full horror of what Roof did. His crimes qualify him for the harshest penalty that a just society can impose, the judges wrote.
So then you have this thing where he deliberately came among them, pretended as if he wanted to engage in Bible study, with his entire focus on killing as many of them as possible. Go ahead, brother. Let's go to the next one.
Peyton S. Gendron, an 18-year-old white man, equipped himself with an illegally modified assault rifle and body armor, including a helmet with camera, so that he could live stream the killings of black people. 13 people were shot and 10 of them were killed. The suspect allegedly says he bought ammunition for some time but did not get serious about planning the attack until January.
Now, I know, we're talking about, as we mentioned, Dylan Roof. People said, well, that happened in the church. The Gendron situation didn't happen in the church. Keep reading.
Though the author also writes about his perceptions of the dwindling size of the white population and claims of ethnic and cultural replacement of whites. Gendron writes that he went in to the Tops Market 3 times.
Pay attention.
At 12 p.m., 2 p.m., and again at 4 p.m.
This is his writing. Now, other people had already said they had seen him, the day before. He had a 2-hour-long discussion with one black man. They are talking, having a calm conversation for 2 hours. The whole time he plans on coming back killing. And had the security guard not told that brother not to stay there, he would have been there when the shooting started. Go ahead.
And each time he details what is happening in the market. He notes how many black and white people are present and provides a hand-drawn map of the market with marked aisles and exit points.
So then you notice how a snake moves. He was taking inventory. He's noticing the exits. How many of us don't even go to a place and even find out where the exits are? Go ahead.
During his last visit to the supermarket at 4 p.m., Gendron says he is approached by a black armed security guard who asked him what he is doing going in and out of the store. The suspect says he told the security guard that he was collecting consensus data, for which the security guard said he needed to talk to the manager. I asked for his name, and he told me, and I instantly forgot. Then I said bye and thanks and walked back to my car.
The whole time, he's being cordial. Okay? At this point, the snake is amongst all these people. This is something that tells you about us as a people. How we allow people to be amongst us, no matter who they are. Now, if we had gone into a predominantly white area, everybody there would have been following us, questioning us, doing everything. Everything we would have picked up. Every place we went. But in this case, it looked like we should have been doing the same thing. Because we are continually being nice to the individuals who then turn around and slaughter our grandmothers. Go ahead.
Gendron writes, in hindsight, that was a close call.
Next graphic.
In a post on March 10th, Gendron writes, I'm going to have to kill that security guard
You
at
see
Tops.
that? After doing his reconnaissance, he wrote down, I'm going to have to kill him. So understand how the snake moves. The snake is coming in, having conversation, but it knows exactly the individuals. All right, this is going to be the protection. I need to kill this individual. I need to make sure I kill this individual. Or else, read it.
I'm going to have to kill that security guard at Tops. I hope he doesn't kill me or even hurt me instantly.
Right, because then I won't get to kill all the black people that I want to kill. Go ahead.
The shooter writes that he planned his attack for March 15th, but then delays the date several times. Gendron cites online research in choosing Buffalo as his site of attack.
He chose Buffalo. I keep telling people that a lot of times, a lot of things are chosen by what he knew. He knew not to go to no Bronx. He knew what areas not to go to. Okay? So there are areas that will have a lot of black people, but it's that kind of town. Go ahead.
Saying that the 14208 zip code in Buffalo was a higher black population than the other locations he was considering.
Than the other locations he was considering. All right? So he's carefully picking where he's going to do this shooting. Go ahead.
He also says he considered attacking a church.
Stop. And y'all wonder why I read that after Dylan Rue? Go ahead.
Or an elementary school, but chose.
Stop. Stop. Where are the places that you're going to get the least resistance? You realize how many kids he could have went there and unloaded 5, 6, 7 times? Kept going. By the time somebody get there, the entire school is dead. Go ahead.
But chose the market because of how many people frequent grocery stores.
All right. So then one thing we have found in common with the snake-like behavior, they come and pretend to be okay so that they can take you by surprise. Let's go to the next graphic.
David Chow, Santa Ana, California. The man charged with opening fire on a Taiwanese church congregation of mainly elderly people.
Do you see the consistent thing here? Let's shoot at the people who are not going to shoot back. Okay? Go ahead.
In Southern California, wanted to execute in cold blood as many people in that room as possible. A prosecutor said Tuesday in announcing murder, attempted murder, and other charges for the shooting that killed 1 person and wounded 5. Orange County District Attorney Todd Spitzer referred to David Chow, 68, as a monster whose rampage was thwarted by the heroic actions of a doctor who charged at him.
Now here's where the thing changes. Go ahead.
A pastor who hit Chow with a chair and several parishioners who tied him up until police arrived.
So they didn't sit around. Now, the doctor lost his life, but he made a decision. If I don't move, we all die. I make the move, just I die. Go ahead.
This monster crafted a diabolical plan to lock the church doors with his victims inside in order to lead what he thought were innocent lambs to slaughter, Spitzer said. But what he didn't realize was the parishioners at the church that they weren't lambs, they were lions, and they fought back against the evil that tried to infiltrate their house of worship. Spitzer said Chow was motivated by hatred for Taiwan.
Next graphic, are we at 19? Go ahead.
Where he was born after his family was forced from mainland China when communists prevailed in civil war that ended in 1949. He apparently chose the church at random and didn't know anyone there, authorities say. He drove from his home in Las Vegas on Saturday and arrived at the church the next day.
And this is another thing. You know, this is why they have to normally research the areas, because they're not areas close to them. See, even a dog know not the crap where he eat. See, that means the chances of some of them victims walking by your family next week, that probably ain't good for your family. So they know, let's go far off to do this dirt. So if I get caught, they not right around the corner from my folks' house. Go ahead.
You know, with this one, unlike the Dylan Ruth and the other one, this one right here fits right in with them. They looking, oh, it's one of us.
Right. See, on the other ones, you know, you got a white guy coming against a black congregation. We talking about Chinese and Taiwanese. I damn sure wouldn't know no different.
So Esaac, pick out the one that's Taiwanese and the one that's Chinese. I said, that one. Hell, I don't know.
Go ahead.
Child spent about an hour mingling with dozens of members of the
Listen,
congregation at a luncheon, which Spitzer said was Child's way of gaining their trust so they wouldn't notice as he began carrying out his plot.
Listen to his plot. Go ahead.
Chaining the doors closed, super gluing locks, and placing incendiary devices in several locations.
Right. You need to let that sink in. Because when you read through this Apocrypha, you find that when the Gentiles came to invade Israel, they planned it on the holy days. They planned it on the Sabbaths. On the days that they figured we would be at our most peaceful would also be the easiest way to attack us. But let us hear the conclusion of this matter. Let's go to Nehemiah chapter 13. Nehemiah chapter 13. And we're going to start that at verse 1.
On that day they read in the book of Moshe in the audience of the people, and therein was found written that the Ammonite and the Moabite should not come into the congregation of Elohim forever.
All right. So now, wait a minute. If those people, you have to ask yourself a question. The two Gentiles came into black congregations. If they put the people out, they would have gotten a story about them being racist. But you know what? They would be alive. You gotta start considering the what ifs. At this point, they're making a decision. Hey, certain people need to get up out of our congregation. Had they made that decision, they would be alive. Now, that's not a popular decision. That's not a decision that somebody wants to make when you're saying, okay, I'm setting up a house and whoever wants to come and worship can come and worship. But then you have snakes that pretend to worship, but their real objective is to slaughter the sheep. So that means some things have to be put in place to protect the sheep from would-be serpents. Go ahead.
You know, and it's funny because people think you're being some kind of way when they say, can I bring so-and-so on a holy day? No, we don't know that individual.
Right.
Let him come to some regular Sabbath class and we see him a couple of times and then maybe.
Mm-hmm. And then you got to think about what is going to be your most lax form of security. You're off doing other things. How much damage could this individual who has crept in unawares, as it is written, you know, that they have come to spy out our liberties while we doing something else? They're doing some things and ain't nobody noticed what all they doing. We got to think, this guy went to a luncheon with these people. He was super gluing locks. That means everybody that went for the door couldn't get out. He would be able to slaughter more people. Consider something. Gendron had made a write-up, a map of the place. He knows where all the exit points at. So as he's trying to go through, he's guessing where they might hide. See, most people don't know. Let me tell you something. In every store, we don't look at it. Hey, there's a stock room back there. Mm-hmm. Okay? If there's a shooting going up front, damn it, don't run back up front. Go to the back toward the stock room. Hell, and it's a door leading out that damn stock room. Go ahead.
Because they met not the children of Israel with bread and with water, but hired Balaam against them, that he should curse them. Howbeit our Elohim turned the curse into a blessing. Now it came to pass, when they had heard the law, that they separated from Israel all the mixed multitude.
Uh-huh.
And before this, Eliashib, the priest, having the oversight of the chamber of the house of our Elohim, was allied unto Tobiah.
I tell you, boy, this name here come up, boy, a lot, huh? Go ahead.
And he had prepared for him a great chamber, where aforetime they laid the meat offerings, the frankincense, and the vessels, and the tithes of corn, the new wine, and the oil, which is commanded to be given to the Levites, and the singers, and the porters, and the offerings of the priests. But in all this time was not I at Jerusalem, for in the 32nd year of Artaxerxes king of Babylon came I unto the king, and after certain days obtained I leave of the king. And I came to Jerusalem, and understood of the evil that Eliashib did for Tobiah, in preparing him a chamber in the courts of the house of Elohim.
Uh-huh.
And it grieved me sore. Therefore I cast forth all the household stuff of Tobiah out of the chamber.
Right, he threw it out. Just like Yeshua went through and said, my father's house is not a house of merchandise, and he turned over the tables and then made a scourge of cords and started swinging them so he can drive them out of Yahweh's house. Don't think that you're going to be liked by everybody in the house. Because there's things that have to be executed righteously in the house. And do not expect to be liked by snakes. If you are liked by a snake, be very worried. Why is that snake so comfortable in your presence? Go ahead.
Then I commanded, and they cleansed the chambers, and thither brought I again the vessels of the house of Elohim, with the meat offering and the frankincense. And I perceived that the portions of the Levites had not been given them, for the Levites and the singers that did the work were fled every one to his field. Then contended I with the rulers, and said, why is the house of Elohim forsaken?
Whenever you find someone standing up for righteousness, it then becomes an issue where they are going back through the book, looking at how things were done, and making the necessary changes. But there are people that every change you make, they are going to think that the change is about them. Go ahead.
And I gathered them together and set them in their place. Then brought all Yehuda the tithes of the corn and the new wine and the oil onto the treasuries. And I made treasures over treasuries, Shelemiah the priest and Zadok the scribe, and of the Levites Pedaiah, and next to them was Hanan the son of Zaccur, the son of Mattaniah, for they were counted faithful, and their office was to distribute unto their brethren.
Mm-hmm.
Remember me, O my Elohim, concerning this, and wipe not out my good deeds that I have done for the house of my Elohim and for the offices thereof.
Do understand. Remember me, my Elohim, for these things that I have done, for the zeal that I have for your house. But understand, the people that he's removing, the people that he's making to stand in order, they are not all happy with him. So if you can't do your work because you worried about who's happy with you, who you not going to have happy with you is your Elohim. Go ahead.
In those days saw I in Yehuda some treading wine presses on the Sabbath, and bringing in sheaves, and lading asses, as also wine, grapes, and figs, and all manner of burdens, which they brought into Jerusalem on the Sabbath day. And I testified against them in the day wherein they sold victuals.
Right. The more you allow things, understand now, it was certain so-called disruption in the city where a brother got upset with the high priest and brought in the heathens. Okay? So now there's a situation where, hey, y'all bringing all of this stuff in. To some people, you know, hey, man, we're making money by bringing this stuff in. Hey, man, no, don't bring this stuff in here no more. Somebody has to stand up for that. Go ahead.
There dwelt men of Tyre also therein, which brought fish and all manner of ware, and sold on the Sabbath unto the children of Yehuda and in Jerusalem.
The only reason they can sell something is somebody buying. If they came and didn't nobody buy, they would have went back home. merchants operate in a place that is profitable for them. And once it becomes profitable for them, they tell their friends, and then other merchants show up. Go ahead.
Then I contended with the nobles of Yehuda and said unto them,
Contended with the nobles. He does not have respect of persons when it comes down to his zeal for Yahweh's house. See, sometimes to protect the supremacy of the house, you got to fight against heathens and against Israelites. Go ahead.
What evil thing is this that you do and profane the Sabbath day? Did not your fathers thus, and did not our Elohim bring all this evil upon us and upon this city? Yet you bring more wrath upon Israel by profaning the Sabbath. And it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark before the Sabbath, I commanded that the gates should be shut.
Wait. And it came to pass that when the gates of Jerusalem began to be dark. So as the sun's going down, you still got these people somewhere. You know, the Sabbath have moving Sabbath. So you got 12 hours in a day, and you got, man, get the hell out of here. I ain't got time to be discussing the Sabbath for 30 years. Okay? We got to move on to higher ground. We're not finna be discussing how many hours in a day. We did that 20 years ago. We're not getting into that. So every now and then you find one of them people, they send an email, and my answer, go suck it. Shalom. You know what I'm saying? Get the hell out of here. I'm not dealing with that. We're not finna keep dealing with that. Dealt that 20 years ago. You want to deal with them people? Now the moon is on the sliver. Well, sliver the hell on out of here. I ain't got time for that. We've been dealing with that 20 years. I'm not dealing with that. We need to be on higher ground. Yahshua on his way, and what we gonna have? A sliver conversation with him? Go ahead, bro.
And charged that they should not be open till after the Sabbath. And some of my servants set I at the gates, that there should no burden be brought in on the Sabbath day.
Ain't no more talking and praying. Now we loading up and slaying. Go ahead.
So the merchants and sellers of all kind of ware lodged without Jerusalem once or twice.
You understand that? Once or twice. See, it ain't gonna take but a couple times. Come on, Cletus. It ain't gonna take. See, we're gonna take care of this business. And once you take care of the business, everybody else gonna know not to come. Go ahead.
Then I testified against them and said unto them, why lodge you about the wall? If you do so again, I will lay hands on you.
All right. I'm gonna give you a warning. But understand the nature of this warning. And I don't lie because I believe in keeping the commandments. If you come here again, attempting to lead my people with buying and selling, I am going to lay hands on you. Go ahead.
From that time forth came they no more on the Sabbath.
You understand? They just needed a little verbal persuasion. Say they just need a little persuasion. Which brings in that question. Why are some snakes so comfortable around you? That means your mouth has never opened. That means you have never spoken truly against their deeds. Why do they feel so comfortable to do things around you? Because your mouth ain't open. All he had to do was say, if you come here again, I'm laying hands on you. They ain't show up no more. So why do snakes keep showing up around you? Go ahead, bro.
That was it.
That was it?
21.
We really have to ask ourselves, those questions. And then we have to ask ourselves, what kind of servants are we going to be? When you look at the situation of the Taiwanese church, the doctor, this was not a janitor. See, some people say, well, see, the janitor, it was okay if he... No. This is a man that had money. This is a man that had, substance. He could have said, let somebody else go. But because the doctor made a decision to go and rush this individual, then the pastor done hit him with a chair. Because they got it in, Wasn't but a couple of them hurt. So you have to ask yourself, what kind of servant are you going to be to your Elohim? That's all that we're going to do for today. I also want to, make sure I let the brothers know there will be no brothers class tomorrow. I'm going to go practice shooting. So we're not going to have a class tomorrow. Remember the Sabbath to keep it holy. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.